Welcome to the Black A History Channel. Please share this video and subscribe to this channel for more captivating content. Now, for those who don't know, I love a Western, and lately I've loved a lot of the modern Westerns that have come out and featured some epic black and queer characters in the past few years. One of the more recent Westerns I found thoroughly entertaining is The Hateful Eight, a mysterious and particularly violent Western that to me is in the same cinematic universe as other modern Western classics like Django and The Magnificent Seven. Trigger warning though, we will be discussing some graphic details in this movie, so viewer discretion is advised. Many Westerns have been known for the violence and history of heroic or terrible American characters, but in recent years, films like Django and The Hateful Eight seem to have ramped up the gore. If you aren't a fan of the N-word, this film is definitely not for you. I guess I can tolerate the incessant use of this taboo word because I truly believe in scripts like these. Whether we like it or not, this is likely how white men spoke in these times. Unlike most Westerns, which are usually set in a hot, desolate desert town, The Hateful Eight takes place in the middle of a blizzard in Wyoming right after the American Civil War. At the very beginning of this movie, we are introduced to our central topic for this video, Major Marcus Warren, played by Hollywood legend Samuel L. Jackson, a Union soldier who meets up with a traveling carriage on its way to shelter from the coming blizzard. From the beginning of the movie, we are reminded that most whites in America are very much racist, but Major Warren's eloquent bargaining skills get him a ride on the horse carriage toward Red Rock, Wyoming, where the group can shelter from the coming storm. Major Warren hops on the carriage and joins a bounty hunter and his captor, a wanted woman who is headed to the gallows, both of which who've never met or spoken to a black man. Though the wanted woman, Daisy, treats Major Warren with disdain, the smile on her face has me convinced she has a crush on him. After picking up another stranger along the way, we realize that we are surrounded by so many kinds of different cowboy characters. A bounty hunter, an outlaw, a prospective sheriff, and a Union soldier all in the same carriage, and none of them trust each other. It turns out Major Marcus Warren is famous for his brutal fights against the Confederacy, and it's clear he gets enjoyment from killing white men in any way he can. The group makes their destination to Minnie's haberdashery, and though we don't see Minnie until the second half of the film, I love that Minnie's haberdashery, a small restaurant, bar, and motel for travelers, is owned by a black woman in this film. When people think of the old American West, they may not think of black women, yet I read an incredible book entitled African American Women of the Old West that tells historic tales of real black women from the American West that left incredible marks on American history. And many of them owned important landmark establishments like we see in this story with Minnie's haberdashery. So a black woman owning this venue isn't just woke storytelling, it's also historically accurate. Major Warren and the group of travelers arrive at Minnie's haberdashery to find she isn't there, but they meet the guests who have already arrived and make themselves at home right as the blizzard begins to overtake the entire area. Now, the group of gunslingers are stuck in the small inn surrounded by a bunch of people they don't trust, and eventually this story begins to feel like a murder mystery or a Western whodunit. Though there are several new guests at Minnie's, we are soon introduced to an even more racist and old Confederate soldier, General Sanford Smithers, who upon meeting Major Warren lets us be known he hates all black people and is disgusted with his presence. But immediately, Major Warren is delighted to see the general and begins to talk to him about seeing him at a battle in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Through conversation with the other guests, we realize the retired Confederate general is in Wyoming looking for his son who went missing in the area and was hoping he could eventually find him. I always knew this movie should be considered a Christmas movie because after watching it again recently, I noticed that one of the characters plays the Christmas hymn, Silent Night, on the piano as trouble brews between Major Warren and the general. Major Warren sweet talks his way into having a conversation with the old general and gleefully explains that he knows his son and that he had the pleasure of killing him. It turns out General Smithers was renowned as the bloody N-word killer of Baton Rouge, who killed hundreds of captured black Union soldiers instead of keeping them as war criminals. And once Warren met his son several months ago, he was delighted to kill him because of his father's past. Though others at the inn don't believe Warren and think he's just trying to upset the old racist into a gunfight, General Smithers listens in horror as Major Warren describes his son's death. Warren smugly describes how after finding out who his father was, Warren forces Chester Smithers to strip at gunpoint. And this is where I think things take a gruesome and very interesting turn. In the description of what happens next, I definitely can't help but think Major Warren is getting off on what he tells the general. The way Major Warren says he made him strip down to his bare ass makes it almost sound as if he enjoyed what he saw. Since this was the 1800s in Wyoming, one of the least populated American states, it's easy to imagine how all this happened in the middle of a bright but snowy day and no one would notice. Warren explains how he walked his son for 2 hours naked in the snow before he collapsed, freezing and begging for a blanket. What Warren explains next is incredibly brutal, and yet also equally homoerotic. Warren says, "I pulled out my big black pecker and made him crawl on all fours to do it. Then I grabbed a handful of that black hair on the back of his head and stuck my big black dingus right down his goddamn throat so it was warm. You bet your sweet ass it was warm." And Chester Charles Smithers sucked on that black dingus as long as he could. The visuals in the movie show the naked hostage going to work in the snow and Major Warren cocking his head back in a maniacal laugh, leaving General Smithers listening on in horror. Warren goes on to explain that the younger Smithers did everything Warren asked him to, though he never got the blanket and eventually froze to death. So even after all of that, the last line also leads me to believe that wasn't the only sexual act the young Smithers was forced to do. Even the line telling the older general, "You bet your sweet ass," has me side-eyeing Major Warren. And of all the ways to torture a person, why is he so stuck on the imagery of sexually overpowering these men? It seems to me Major Warren had some unresolved desires for men, even the ones he sees as mortal enemies. Eventually, Major Warren gets his wish and draws General Smith's fire, though he misses, and Warren expertly shoots General Smithers in the face, calmly sitting back down to smoke his cigar. This movie and this scene was incredibly brutal, but yours truly simply couldn't help but notice the queer storyline happening. And as we know, same-sex desires may have been acknowledged at this time, but were likely rarely discussed in the detail we discuss the same-sex desires in modern times today. Samuel L. Jackson is an incredible actor, and I've grown up watching him my whole life, and this is the closest I've ever seen him coming to playing a queer character. And since I got such a crush on the iconic actor, I'll take what I can get, even if it's in the form of a villainous character. I'm sure some watching might even consider Major Warren a hero, considering who his enemy was in the film. Have you seen The Hateful Eight? What did you think of Major Warren in this shocking scene in the movie? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.